Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. I advise and empower women professionals, especially women veterans, to step up into their most authentic personal brand to gain lucrative opportunities. In other words, I help you to look good, feel good, but not only look the part, but live the part. And so here on the Slay to Success Talk Show, we bring in a guest. And y'all, I'm just going to tell you right now, if you aren't here live, you're going to miss all of the tea, all of the gems that are going to be dropped here tonight. So go ahead, grab your girls, grab your friends, if you will, and get your drink of choice. I have water, okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're hydrating because it is the summertime. And get into these seats because we're going to have a beautiful conversation tonight with my great friend and sister in arms. So before we get started in all of this, all right, what does slay to success really mean? Well, let's just break it down to slay. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym that stands for Universal Life and Leadership Philosophies that really resonate with me, and hopefully they resonate with you too. And that is to stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community or a sense of family, and knowing all along you are built to last. So as you come on in, okay, to the space and you drop in, please make sure that you tell us your name, where you're streaming in from, so that way we can give you a proper shout out. Now, I've got Facebook here on my phone because Facebook, I don't know why you trying to allow me not to be great, okay? Because I can't see the comments. And so now I have the phone here. I see that Madame is here, Leslie George. Thank you so much for dropping in this evening. I hope that you're feeling well. But as you come in, please make sure you tell us where you're streaming in and your name. So as we do it here on the show, y'all, we bring in men and women who are using the slay philosophies to positively impact the lives of so many people. It's about impact and influence, okay? And in my world, it's slayfluential, okay? That is what we are doing. So buckle up, y'all. So who do I got with us tonight? Okay, so if you have not met or heard of her name before, I want you to go ahead and go on LinkedIn, okay, because that is the preferred platform of choice that she uses, that I use, and look her up because it is my honor to introduce a powerhouse. She's a powerhouse in strategy, leadership, and she is a veteran entrepreneurship. So it is Michelle, affectionately called G.I. Gardner-Ince. She is a retired U.S. Air Force colonel and nationally recognized advocate for women, veterans, and minority-owned businesses. Now, GI has commanded billion-dollar operations, y'all. She's built transformative programs and founded both GI Strategic Solutions and a nonprofit called Above, ABOVE. Her journey from the battlefield to the boardroom is a masterclass in reinvention, resilience, and radical impact. Today, she speaks not just with authority, y'all, but with heart. She is the creator of the Command Your Influence movement, a top military veteran voice on LinkedIn, and an unstoppable force helping purpose-driven CEOs grow their influence in the federal, corporate, and community space. She's here to challenge us. She's going to be here to equip us. And please, y'all, she is going to inspire us to think bigger, lead smarter, and build businesses with bold influence. So please join me in welcoming a true luminary, okay, Michelle G.I. Gardner-Ince. And I'm going to bring her in.
Hello. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. My sister in service. So glad to be here with you and your community.
I am so happy for your yes. I mean, this right here has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has.
Because, even though it's been probably about 6 months or so that we have been intimately working on projects together and doing some collaborations, I have been secretly stalking you for some time.
Really?
Really. And when I first met you, I was like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm finally
Stop,
meeting her."
stop
And
it.
it was like, this is, when you can truly see and hear someone who has worn the uniform, has gone through the many iterations that it has, and you get to finally meet them on the other side, it's just like, man, I'm in a right circle. So I just want to thank you, first of all, for being here on the show. And we got
Absolutely.
so much to talk about.
Let's go, girl. Let's go. I want to wait a minute. Wait, I want to let your audience know. We're having a girlfriend talk. You just
Yeah.
get to listen.
That's right. They're eavesdropping. Okay. And this is as if we just by ourselves and we just gonna be
Absolutely.
on the couch and
Absolutely.
we're just gonna go in,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
I tell you, I think the very first time that I heard of you, well, I know it was the very first time that I heard from you when I was stationed at Ellsworth. So I get to Ellsworth Air Force
Wow.
Base, y'all, my last base, and we have a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name again?
Rick
Because
Ives.
Rick Ives, okay? So he came up to me and he says, "Hey, do you know Michelle Gardner-Ince?" And I was like, "No." "Oh, you should know her. She was here. You need to contact her. You need to let her know that you are here and that she can give you a lay of the land of what's going on out here." And I was like, "Okay." And I think I text or message you or something into the
Mm-hmm.
fact,
Mm-hmm.
and we were conversing, I think through text message or whatnot,
Yes.
and just kind of getting an understanding of what I would be facing out there because you had already been there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then I realized that you've had an extensive military career.
God is
So
good.
can you just share with the audience a little bit about yourself, like
Yes.
getting into the Air
Yes.
Force, kind of what that journey
Yes.
looked like?
Yes. 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 First of all, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
before I get into my story, I kind of want to start with Rick Ives and back up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, how I got to Ellsworth was because of a secret fan. So I
Hmm.
always tell people be careful because someone's watching. Be careful of the leader you are because someone's watching. So I got to Ellsworth because a colonel had been watching me for years. I was the division chief, the chief of services, which is now, I guess, called force support, but not really, kind of sort of the all the lodging, food, club stuff was services, and then the other personnel stuff. But um, he was at headquarters PACAF. I was in Suwon, Korea, and we were winning awards. We were just killing it. Best food, best lodging. I was PACAF Support Officer of the Year. Just unbelievable. And unbeknownst, he was watching. Then I was at a group commander's school, and I was helping with setting up the reception for the commanders after they broke from their session. And this colonel was talking to me, asking me different things, and I didn't even know I was being interviewed. Next
Hmm.
thing I know is he fired his services squadron commander and asked for me. That's how I got,
Wow.
that is how I got to Ellsworth Air Force Base, because of a secret fan just watching me do my best at whatever I was doing. And so, that
Hmm.
that that leadership lesson has always stayed with me, and it goes back to my dad. And we have to tell everybody we're going to be together on Tuesday on
Yep.
a LinkedIn together of veteran daughters. We saluted him first, and our service continues to salute our father's service. So we're going to be doing that on Tuesday at 7. So come back. But it all
Yes.
started with my father, who was one of the first Black Army Corps of Engineer officers. And
Mm.
so, when he joined the military, he and my mom met and married at Tuskegee Institute then, now university. And their first duty station was Germany. And when he arrived, he was the only Black officer on the post. The, one, the
One.
only, the
Oh,
only Black officer on the post. And so by this time, I was like 3 or 4. I think I was like four, maybe 5 by the time, because my mother and I stayed back until, we got to the post. But when I arrived, I've always been very social. Oh, hi, I'm Michelle. We lived over there. I was always that girl. And so
mhm.
my father said when we moved there, hey, go outside and play on the playground while they were unpacking. And I'm going around, speaking to people on the monkey bars, the swings, you know, the merry-go-round. And I'm like, hi, I'm Michelle. I just moved here, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
and I'm just running around and enjoying myself. All of a sudden, Susie's mom, that's what I'm going to call her,
Mm.
calls from the 4th floor, because my dad was a lieutenant, and the higher ranking you were, the higher floor you got. So this
Oh,
is in these, it's like a quad, so it's like the playground's in the middle, and there's 4 high rises on each side with roads coming into the quad.
yeah.
And I'm telling this story because it set a lot of who I am and why I am the way I am. And so Susie's mom yells from the balcony, everybody come in for cookies and milk. So all the kids start running up the stairwell. Well, I don't want to be left out. I run up the stairs, knowing good and Willamette Hall Gardner, that's my mom's full name, would have beat me about being in somebody's house, right?
Mhm.
That I didn't know, but I'm the last one, just in case, I need to turn around and run back, because I really shouldn't be following up to nobody's house. So
You know that,
I
right?
run up the stairs, round and round and round, and I'm the last one to the door. Susie's mom says, oh no, dear, you need to go home for cookies and milk.
Oh.
And I will tell you, I ran back down the stairs sobbing, and ran across the playground and bust in the door, just profusely crying. And my mom said, what's wrong, are you hurt? And I said, no. I said, they won't let me in for cookies and milk. And she said, oh sweetheart, I'll make you some cookies and milk. Well, I will tell you, my entire formative years, all the way up to high school, and I went to 17 different schools. My mom
Oh.
believed in follow her man, because my grandmother, who only went to the 3rd grade, said, them Army men, they got a woman everywhere they go. If he can go, if you can go, he's going, you better go. And so if my dad went to a 6-month TDY, we packed up, and we went.
Where?
Yes. So when I went to Tuskegee, that was my 17th school. And all the way up from that point at kindergarten to high school, I was the only Black officer's kid. The Blacks didn't like me because I was an officer's kid. You think you're better because your dad's an officer. The whites didn't like me because I was Black. So I was in this no man's land. And so I tell people, the confidence you see is from survival. It ain't arrogance. It is not an
Mm.
imposter, because from young, I had to love myself. And my mother
Mm.
instilled in me that there was nothing wrong with me, and that I could do anything I wanted, and to adapt to change. Think about all those 17 different moves, 17 different schools. Change is what I love because change is what I've known all my life. And so
Yeah.
when I when I graduated from high school in the Virgin Islands, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yes, 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 yes. My dad was Army advisor to the U.S. Virgin Islands National Guard. And so
Wow. I
yes,
didn't know that either.
yes, girl, it's way too much. So
Oh my
that's
gosh.
how that's how I graduated from high school in the Virgin Islands. I was also a contestant in the Miss Virgin Islands contest. Little known fact. Yes,
Wow.
beauty. Look, beauty contest. So when I started applying to colleges, my dad said, "I don't care what school you get accepted to. If you get accepted to Tuskegee, you're going." He said, "If I'm paying, I'm saying." He said, "You're going there at least a year because you don't know who you are. You are a white girl in a black body. You don't know
Oh,
about our people." And he was right. Other than the people going home to Albany, Georgia, which is where I was born, which is where my mother's from and my father's from, a little small city outside of there. I'd never been around that many black people I was not related to in my life,
mm,
except for when I
mm.
went to Tuskegee. So I love to tell this story. The logic of a 17-year-old was that ROTC would be easier than physical education. Because back then in the 70s, if you were a private, historically black college that got federal funds, every student had to take ROTC or physical education. In my mind, ROTC looked like a lot less sweating because I've been a glamour girl all
You said a lot less sweated. Girl,
and I
you
knew
know
it
how
wasn't
we
going
do.
and I knew it wasn't going Army because it was way too much dirt over there. I'm just like, no hate on, no
You
shade
said
on the Army, but
you
this
said too
girl is
much dirt.
no, this girl is proud to be in the chair force. Okay, proud,
Yeah.
proud to be in the chair force. So I saw these women recruiting at the recruitment table with these cute blue skirts on and the little blue shirts. Remember when we used to wear them on the outside? You didn't tuck them
Yep.
in. It was a cute little,
No.
shirt on the outside. And so I said, yes, sign me up. I was in ROTC one semester and got a 4-year scholarship.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that's how
Wow.
I ended up in the United States Air Force. And oh, by the way, I was supposed to be a missile officer, but during summer camp, I went to um, into a missile silo. I came back and told my professor of aerospace science, his name is Aaron B. Floyd. I just wrote the foreword to his book earlier this year. I said, I can't do that. I'm not going to be down there for days, miles below the earth. I will go crazy. I'm going to quit. He goes, oh, no. Don't quit. Let me see what I can do. Well,
Oh.
if you've never met A.B. Floyd, that's what I call him, multimillionaire, has bought and sold several businesses. He's just amazing. He's my mentor still to this day. He whatever he wants, he gets. He is charming, he is smart, and he's quite handsome, even in his old age.
Yeah.
he came back and said, "Oh, you're not going to believe it. I got they only had a few slots, but I got you a non-technical scholarship. So you're going to be able to stay in and keep your scholarship." So the Air Force paid for me to get a 4-year degree in fashion design.
Listen, y'all, you
That's how
can't
I
make this
came in the
up.
Air Force. So if you want to know how I got to services, remember services is BX and uniforms. And I
Mm-hmm.
was going to redo the women's uniform. Y'all know I didn't get that opportunity. But that's how I came in the Air Force. I'll pause there because I've told you a lot.
That is a lot. I'm just like impressed. I'm truly impressed to the story because
You're
I
too
mean,
funny.
any time that you can remember like an incident that happened and then be able to, tether that through the rest of your, years that you had on this is truly, that was like a,
It was trauma.
Traumatizing. Yeah. Like you were ready to have the same experience as your friends and you just didn't get that because they were like, no, you only Black family here on base. And truly, I could already picture that in my head because even fast forward to 2020, whatever, is you still have that connotation. So I know back then it was worse. It was way worse.
But it was, you know what, as I think back on it, it was preparation for me, right? I mean, I don't really care what people think.
Yeah.
If you're not my family, if you're not someone I care about, I don't really care what you think. And I had to be that way to survive. And the other thing that traumatic experience did, when I was 4 or 5 years old, was that door being slammed in my face made me want to make sure no one else got the door slammed in their face. So I'm an overgiver. I'm an overshare because, I always say, that door might have been, shut in my face, but the world's greatest Air Force allowed so many doors to be opened for me to have an opportunity to be the first Black female in my Air Force specialty to make colonel. So I just think all of those things, many times we look at trauma as bad, but it also can shape your desire to help, your desire to mentor, your desire to lift others up. And I know what it feels like to be left out. I know what it feels like to be the only, and I don't want that for anybody. So that's why, I'm an overgiver, probably to a fault, almost to a fault.
It is to a fault because I said, man, y'all, we've been doing some events together, and I was like, gee, I done bought all these different things in here, gadgets and resources and all things, and I'm like, where is this all coming from? But it's truly from the heart. And that's what you do. That's how you show up,
That is true.
And I just like, okay, each of us have the ability to do something and whatever that is, but you recognize that you are an over deliverer. You give, and in the military, sometimes we just be giving way too much.
Amen to that, sister.
And you don't even know what's up or down on some days because you do whatever, you're sacrificing, you're showing
we
up.
Got to. We feel like there's no option because we look around. Ain't nobody else gonna do it like we gonna do it, and we got a standard. We gotta, my father always said, sweep the floor the best it's ever been swept, and somebody gonna notice and give you something better to do. And he also used to say, excellence is not what we do, it is who we are. Our family, I have a very high achieving family. My son said, Mom, it's a lot of pressure to be in this family. I said, I know, you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Yeah. I mean, and you see this too, because, with your son, and when you are a parent later, they see you being successful, and then they graduate college and think that happened overnight. We're like, no, baby, no. I was 35 years old when I had you. So I was like, I was well established. I had been through some things. You didn't see when we didn't have nothing. Okay. You didn't know. Now you just think everything like this just showed up. No, baby. No.
I know it's a really sad situation because we both had our children later. I think I was 37 when I had AJ. So, it comes with, resources are available. I'll just say that. Okay. And so he's always like, hey, I want to go and do this and I want to go do that. We're like, okay. And we just make it happen. But you're right. There were lots of things that happened before that those chapters where
Mm-hmm.
they didn't see us grinding and
Exactly.
working and
Exactly.
really, trying to climb to the ranks, if you will.
Exactly.
Those are those hard and long days that sometimes we don't even think about. But then we come back on the other side of it where we're at right now in our
Yeah.
next chapter,
Yes.
and I'm saying that this chapter is probably the best chapter yet,
Okay.
you
The
know?
Bible says our latter days will be better than our former. I'm like, well, we had some good former days. They might have been tough,
Exactly.
but we had some good ones.
Yeah. So, like, tell us a little bit about your transition from the military and
Mm-hmm.
then, deciding to
Mm-hmm.
do a few things and kind of
Mm-hmm.
what happened and what
Yeah.
did you achieve from that?
Well, girl, well. Well, I retired, believe it or not, 15 years ago.
Mm.
15 years, 2009. May
Wow.
May of 2009, I retired. And I retired out of the Pentagon. I came from being the commander of APHIS Pacific, where I had almost 8,000 people working for me, 87 locations, $1 billion business, ran a water plant, a bakery, whole logistic, look, global logistic, you know, transatlantic, operation. I'm gonna tell you. I have to tell you about the APHIS story before I get to my transition.
Yeah.
That job was the biggest job I'd ever had. Now I've been
Mhm.
deputy base commander right at Hanscom. That's where I made colonel. But this job, imagine you've been to Okinawa.
I have.
Imagine my house overlooked the water.
Wow.
My backyard, I could see full unobstructed view of the water. My office sat up on the hill of Camp Foster, right there where the dining hall was. It sat up and it had a view of the water.
Mhm.
I had a driver.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. When I went TDY, I was flying on a Black Hawk or a C-121. When I was going within the Pacific, with the exception of Alaska and Hawaii, I was on private jets. I was
Mm.
being met on the tarmac by the wing commander who wanted a new Subway, a new McDonald's, a new Dunkin' Donuts, or a new store. So they were
That's right.
they were they were taking good care of me.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought to myself, I said, "Hmm, look at this little black girl from Georgia."
Running things.
Okay. And oh, by the way, other than cutting ribbons, kissing babies, eating food, and shopping,
Yeah.
the power of that, of negotiating land, because see,
Mhm.
the base, the Air Force, Army, whatever, gives the land to APHIS, and APHIS builds on that. So no, negotiating land and location was a lot of what I was doing. But I thought
Mm.
to myself, would a corporate Fortune 100 company give this little black girl this opportunity? I think not. If I did, it would be extremely rare. And I'm always just
Mm.
so thankful to God of the logic of a 17-year-old. Join the
Mm.
Air Force, to stick with it, and to rise to those heights. And I tell the APHIS story because when I came out of the Air Force, I did 3 years. Yeah, 3 years at the Pentagon. Great job, but drove me crazy. After coming out of command and you're in a staff job, I was like, oh my God. Slit my wrist the long way, not the short way. Just put me
Oh,
out of my misery. No troops, no drill mission. Yikes! You me crazy. And I made
no.
it, but I made it. But I probably, everybody said stay to 30. I said, I don't think I can. I have to go. I have to go. In hindsight, I probably could have stuck it out, but I was just, done.
Yeah.
But I came out thinking I'm gonna be a multimillionaire in a couple of
Mm.
years. Cause I didn't run
Mm.
$1 billion business. I know what I done been in charge and large. I was in business for 3 years and failed. First of all, back in 2011, 2000, I really started on it in 2009, really didn't get my first subcontract because I worked for a couple of other veteran-owned businesses as a subcontractor. I did strategic planning for the Undersecretary of the Air Force. I did offsites. I built an entire headquarters for a company that was virtual, supervised the project management of it all. And I had fun, but I didn't make any money. Because, see, it's one thing to run things with an infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's another thing to run things and to have to hunt for what you eat. No
That's
hunting,
right.
no eating. And so that perspective, people, oh, I've been a contracting officer. Oh, I've been this and I know contracting. No, you don't. No, you don't. You do not know. If you don't do that thing, your check's still coming.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it was feast or famine. I was just, you know, working so hard, and you know how we do. We're going to put it all in. And I had a very negative experience as a subcontractor. I was the only FTE on a contract. They paid me 1/4 of what they got paid. So they added a CLIN, right? An additional amount of money to exercise this contract line item. That's kind of what CLIN stands for. To have me do strategic planning and the offsite. When I'm packing up and the you know, the guy who was the my point of contact said from the government said, "Oh my God, the undersecretary is so happy. You did a phenomenal job. You know, we had to add $60,000 to the CLIN to pay you. They paid me 12. Why did you have to rate me like that? There's no, the prime contractor did no work. Zero, zilch, nada. Why did you? And, oh, by the way, let's just back that up. I didn't have enough sense to add taxes, to add cost, to add travel, to add all these things that a newbie, right? You could have. Why did you have to do? Why couldn't you teach me? Why couldn't you mentor me and go, Michelle? No, that's not really not enough. Did you consider this? But you just and you just took it. Then on the other contract I was working on, the project was delayed. The building opening was delayed because no fault of my own, but because of something the build out contractor was doing. Well, I said, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to make sure the furniture is set up, the telephone system. I'm going to stay. I sent them an invoice. They said, oh no, we don't have a contract. Your contract. Same reaction you had. Same reaction you had. I said, excuse me? I said, but I did. Yeah. We appreciate that. And the thing that someone told me was, I bet you learn your lesson. You won't do that again. Really? 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 Wow. And that is when I learned, even though people had the uniform on, when they took it off, they oftentimes took off the values that they espoused to when they had it on. And so because these are my brothers in arms. I'm thinking,
yeah,
how you gonna do me like this? Like, somebody had to teach you. Why couldn't you teach me? Why couldn't you give me grace? You know, all of that. But instead, you took advantage of my ignorance. That's why when I got a call to come to the VA, and the VA really was the only place I wanted to work because I wanted to continue my service to veterans. You know, all of my military career had been serving military members, their families, and veterans and civilians through entrepreneurship, because the BX commissary, lodging, food, all those make money. So and we just return it back into the community, but it's still for profit. So I thought, man, I can go continue my service at VA. Well, this is the power of relationships. This is the power of excellence. I get a call from a fellow retired colonel. We had been in SOS together. That's like 25 years ago. We were captains. And he says, hey, Michelle, I got a senior executive here at SES. He said he's looking for people who can run stuff and get stuff done. And your name was immediately came to my mind.
Oh.
Do you know this is a miracle, absolute miracle. He said, do you want me to send him his resume? I sent him your resume. I said, sure. Send him my resume. He called, his secretary called, said, you want to interview? I said, yes. I put money in the meter outside for 2 hours because I said, it's probably, it's not going to be 2 hours. 4 hours later and $100 ticket. I'm like, I better get this job. I'm just saying. I better get this job. So at the time, I had been interviewing for jobs because this business thing was not working out. And my feeling was real hurt that I was all of that in a bag of chips, ran $1 billion business here. I done fell flat on my face. So, I didn't really transition well. Yeah. And he called back and said, I'm interested. There's going to be a job that's going to be posted. Here's the job number, apply. I did. I had been interviewing around, so I had a job offer letter from another civilian company. You have one time to negotiate your government salary. That's the first time you enter federal government. A lot of people don't know that. Oh. You can build it where you do a justification. It's called special qualifications justification. Mm-hmm. One of my girlfriends, this is the power of knowledge. This is why I want, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't know. But she had done it on her job and she said, here, girl, here's mine. Here's how you do it, blah, 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 blah. I came into the federal government as a 15-step 8. In 2 years, I was maxed out. Couldn't make no money. And I've been a 15 for 14 years now. So I've been maxed out for 12 years. Wow. Yes, ma'am. Wow. Yes, ma'am. When I tell you God is good, all the time, He's God good. Is good. But I told him I negotiated it because what they wanted me to do was miracle work. I have never worked so hard. I'm going to tell you, I have done a lot of hard jobs in the military. But I'm going to tell you, that job was the hardest job I've ever had. And it was because, one, you're dealing with civilians. I know UCMJ. Oh, yeah. 2, I had Congress. There was a congressional committee who was focused on, I was running the Veteran Business Certification Program. Mm-hmm. And at the point that I took over in December 2011, it would take you 200 days to get certified, which meant you couldn't get a contract in the same year you got certified. Wow. Like once you applied, you're not even getting a contract. So I have been called and cussed out by veterans who have second mortgages on their homes. I have been called by congressional staffers, been fussed out on the Hill, fussed out by the secretary's staff. And guess what? The first day I showed up at work, it was at a congressional hearing. What? I came in. My boss said, I want you to go with me to this congressional hearing. I showed up. And there's a man who, to this day, every time he sees me, he says, oh, gee, hi. I won't mention his name. He walked up to me and said, oh, you're the new director of the Center for Verification and Evaluation? I said, yes. We'll see how long you last. What? I said, oh, well, you obviously don't know me. Look, you obviously don't know me. The first thing you do, tell me I can't. Yes. Show you. That's right. That's what we do. Because guess what? Success is the greatest revenge. You
It
want to put
is.
gas in my tank?
That's
Resist me.
right.
You want to put gas in my tank? Tell me I can't. Give me
Yep.
some hate. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'm bringing it on. That's all.
Right.
And so
Wow.
I said, oh, really? I said, okay. And my boss said, that's why I paid you and brought you in at the level, because I did not want you to leave. I wanted to pay you the highest amount I could because I did not want you to live. Now, let me tell you about excellence, how it follows you.
Mm.
And people are always watching.
Mm-hmm.
The person who approved my superior qualification package,
Yeah.
I had worked with when I was a major. I
Wow.
worked on the law that says there has to be 2 veterans at every military funeral. I
Yeah.
worked on that legislation with Strom Thurmond, his staff, the Department of VA. And when the bill was signed into law, I orchestrated this huge signing. Every military secretary was there. Every military 4-star was there. Strom Thurmond, all these veteran service organizations. It was televised nationally, went off flawlessly. And that guy remembered me. And he said,
Wow.
I don't care what she wants, give it to her. I know her. She will get this done. And I'm like, and he told me that
Listen.
later after I didn't even know until years later. He said, you know, I approve your package. And I told them, yeah, I know her. I remember you from when you helped us with, getting that signed into law. And I saw what you did. That was amazing. And I knew you would do it again.
Wow. That, you know what? These stories that we have, that just, they blow our minds. They
I don't
literally
even know
blow
how I
our
did it.
minds.
I don't even know how I did it.
Well, you
Don't
did
even
it
know.
because like you said, always have showed up in excellence. And you are from a family that
Excellent.
that's been instilled with you your whole
Mm-hmm.
entire life.
Yes.
So it didn't just like fall off, you just continued on. And then,
Yes.
even though you quote unquote failed, and that word is kind of, loose tight, the way that you phrased it, I'm like, well, that's not
Well, it
really
didn't meet my expectation. It was failure. You
right,
know
your
how we are.
expectation, but I'm
You know,
sure you learned so much out
I
of that.
did. I
That's why
did.
you give back to others, especially women veterans,
And that's why
minority
I'm
people
passionate about
businesses.
business success because of that
Exactly.
failure. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so, you continually to show up even years after you transition from the military. And
Yes.
now you a whole brand. Okay. So like this whole brand thing, I'll tell you. Look,
Ooh, girl.
nobody can touch that. Okay. So I don't care what anybody says, because, I'm in a space too where, you create your message, you create your,
Mm-hmm.
content, you create your graphics, you create all these things so that people can get it right. Right. I
Yes.
don't want anybody
Yes.
to say, oh, well, this is what she's related to when it's really not. Y'all need to
Yeah.
just, check
Yeah.
out what I'm putting out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is truly how, you can get into more doors. Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when I saw like you have this whole, I mean, y'all, she's got a whole thing. All right. She is a woman, one woman show. Okay.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Hey, ain't no staff over here.
and no staff. Okay. So all of these things, like, so what because I know for me, like for when I decided to go with like the slay message and
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
content and so forth, like
mm-hmm.
it was most fitting for me. And there's a whole story behind it as well. And I know there's a story behind yours too, but like truly living in your brand. You just
Oh
don't
my God.
like look the brand, you are living the brand. So
Yes.
like share with some folks like who are interested because there's a lot of
Right.
curiosity kills the
Right.
cat.
Right. 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 Well, first of all, it goes back 35 years.
Mm,
That's how long I've been married, right? So, um, my father passed um, via suicide um,
mm,
3 weeks before I got married. And unexpected. I mean, he'd been to Vietnam 3 times, um, 3 Purple Hearts, just an amazing man. And all his life had just been about excellence. And I was just talking to my son and daughter about this the other day, that in one generation, this is why I love military service. In one generation, he and my mother elevated. Oh, by the way, my mother's 1973 Army Wife of the Year, community leader. Just when I tell you, overachiever, high achieving, just saying, elevated the level of our family in one generation with my father joining the military. My mother's mother went to the 3rd grade. And her father only went to the 6th grade. On my father's side, his father only went to the 8th grade, while his mother had a master's degree and was a teacher. But if you look at all of his siblings, he and my mother, who's the only child, are the most successful if you put it by just, middle class, et cetera, right?
Yep.
And I was just talking to my son about that. And I said, do you realize you are a 3rd generation college graduate? 3rd generation. Where there are people still who are just 1st generation, who are your peers. And he's like, yeah, Mom. And so, military service is just, it's not for everyone, but I mean, what it has done, for our family. So when my father died, at first I was on the, because this is 1989. Hyphenated names was still kind of a, what you doing? Oh, what you doing? Yeah. Hyphenated? Why you doing that? He let you do that. All of that. One day we just have to have a show about all the inappropriate things they used to say. Oh, you got one in the hanger, eh? Like, just you got one cooking in the oven, huh? Like, just like, I could just
stop it. We are not on the school grounds anymore. Okay, let's go.
I can laugh about it now, but I'll be like, did that really just come out of your mouth?
Oh yeah.
But when he died, it just sealed that I was keeping my maiden name as part of the legacy. Before, I was kind of on the fence. And when I came, I was at Langley Air Force Base. And when I came back from my honeymoon, the guys, remember this is a fighter pilot base, the guys said, you're not going to be one of those women who keep your name, are you? What's your name? What do you call it? I said, it's Gardner-Ince. They were like, Gardner-Inc? Gardner-Inc? What is that? Ince? What is that? I said, it's Gardner-Ince. They said, oh, we're not calling you that. We're calling you GI. And from then on, GI was a first name. It was a last name. Yeah. It was a noun. It was a verb. And it was an adjective. And it could have even been a cuss word if you worked for me and you weren't on your name.
I know that's right.
So it just kind of stuck. And everybody knows me as GI.
Yep.
Well, nobody knew me as that outside the military. And when I retired, it kind of like died off. And it died off because corporate says, oh, women shouldn't have nicknames. It's not professional. It takes away from your, people taking you seriously if you have these nicknames. And I was thinking, okay. And I kind of went along with it. Let me tell you, be yourself.
Yes.
There's exceptions to everything, and you are the exception.
Yes.
And so when I came into VA, because most of the staff was veterans, and there was another Michelle in the office, I started again with GI. But the brand really started out of rebellion. Hey,
Mm.
what's up,
I
Sergeant?
know.
How are you?
Listen, before you start moving on with the story, right? We got several people either on LinkedIn or on
Yes, I can't
Facebook.
see. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
Donnell kind of just showed up. So thank you, Donnell, for being here. Because yes, it is a movement. Okay. She is a whole movement. We got another person here who just, gave a salute. We don't know.
Okay,
We
good.
don't know your picture. We need to see your picture one day.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. Then on the Facebook side, because y'all, Facebook is not allowing us to be great, but I am tracking the comments here. We've got Leslie. She loves it that you're using the brag formation in action, really talking and loving on
Mhm,
yourself and
mhm.
showcasing yourself. She also says someone is always watching to see how consistent you are. So
Yes,
when
yes.
people you don't think they are, they really are. And
Mhm.
we got to continue to show up just the way that we do. And then Leslie also says, correct people feel that being a W 2 worker is the same as a 1099.
Mm.
Two different mindsets and
Hello.
resilience. Hello.
Mhm.
So, we know that for a fact to be true.
Yes.
And then also we had Glenroy. Okay, so Glenroy's in the building. Glenroy, I love you because you're always here. Glenroy is said, hello, y'all. Sorry for the late arrival. I just wanted to stop through and show support this evening. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
everybody that's on the Facebook side. And then Chevy, she's listening in because she's
Hi,
got to get the
Shay.
kids ready for, all the
Yes.
things for the week. So she's just listening in. But, you know, it just really talking through that it fell off and then it picked back up again because you decided,
Mhm.
well, there's another Michelle up in here. So how did we differentiate ourselves? And the way
Yep.
that you knew was to say, you know what, let me go back to this GI thing. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And so, it has morphed. I know that has morphed
Yes.
and evolved in so
Yes.
many different things.
Yes.
So what has it taught you? Like, what has this branding
Well,
taught you?
well, first I want to go back to it was accidental.
Mm,
The whole LinkedIn thing was accidental. I um I always say a couple of us need extra help, right? So the way I got to '06 was two four-star generals entered my life at the lieutenant colonel point and
mm.
mentored me, right?
Mhm.
And gave me visibility. I sat in front of all the four stars in the Air Force, one of seven people, talking about diversity, retention in the Air Force. And so, thank you, General Spencer. Thank you, General
Mm.
Lyles. So love you, appreciate you. And also I call him my dad since my father is passed. And happy Father's Day to
Oh,
my
yeah, that's right.
my
Happy
oh my
Father's
God,
Day.
oh my God, oh
Yeah,
my
we
God.
almost forgot.
To
Happy Father's Day,
Brian.
y'all.
Yes, 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 to Brian and to my adopted dad. I call him the 13th disciple, Clint Wallace, Colonel retired Clint Wallace. But um, I First Baptist Glenarden has a veteran breakfast, Veterans Day
Mhm,
breakfast,
mhm,
and everybody's supposed to wear their uniform.
mm.
Well, guess who outgrew their uniform?
Right.
So I said, me being the fashion design major I am, creative, let me take everything that's on my uniform and put it on my hat.
Oh.
That was the catalyst behind that salute picture with everything on my hat.
Oh.
Was that I wasn't, how expensive uniforms are. I wasn't going to buy no
No,
new
no,
uniform.
ma'am. No,
This
ma'am.
is crazy expensive. So I put everything, all my badges, everything on my hat. Well, I had my daughter take a picture of it leaving the breakfast, and I posted it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, I had a mentor call me and said, Michelle, I don't think that's in regulation. You do know the Air Force has regulations about how to, how retirees are supposed to show up in uniform. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I do know that. I said, but I'm trying to honor my service. I'm not ripping it, burning it, cutting it. I'm just trying to honor. Mm-hmm. But the Air Force is clear about, I said, yes, sir. Now, if he'd have stopped right there,
Yeah.
then he had a friend of mine, fellow
Mm.
colonel, call me and send me the regulation.
Huh?
Well,
What?
well,
What are we doing?
well, well, well,
What?
well.
You're like, wait a minute.
What they gonna do? Hunt me now? What they gonna do? Bring me back on active duty and court martial me? Like what?
Oh Lord. What?
So the rebellion sent me said I had booked a picture with Nick Nelson, brandpreneur. If you all don't know him, infamous on LinkedIn, big on taking headshots and professional pictures of people of color. I was flying down to Atlanta for the photo shoot because I needed to take some, I was gonna leave the VA and I was gonna go back out there and I said, let me just throw this hat and dress in here. Let me just, whatever. I put that on and I walked out of the dressing room and he was like, oh my God, I love this. This is your gift to me. So because he loved it, and that's why I take pictures, professional pictures every year. Used to be twice a year. Okay. I don't do it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But I take pictures every year.
Yeah.
With a purpose. Like I'm going to do this theme for this year.
Yeah.
This is my focus for this year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did. But he was the first one to take the salute photo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I didn't post it for 6 months.
Yeah.
I had never seen myself so strong yet feminine ever. I never saw myself feminine in uniform because I had a job to do.
That's
I didn't
right.
want to be seen that way. That was a negative.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, I was raised by a brown shoe chief. I was the chief's lieutenant. It wasn't the lieutenant. The chief wasn't the lieutenant's chief. I worked for a chief for the first 3 years. So my pockets were sewn down. My uniform was tailored.
That's right.
Everything was blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
That's the way he taught me. But I never wanted to I never saw myself as feminine. And so I was like, he's like, you haven't posted that picture yet. I said, yeah, I know. He said, you need to come take my boot camp. Now, when Nick says a boot camp, Nick means a boot camp. His brand boot camp, I don't know if he's doing it anymore, but it's brutal.
Is it?
I mean, it is a week of from 7 to 10 at night, you learning a concept. Then by 9 in the morning, you have to post it and do it.
Oh.
And we did Facebook, we did Instagram, we did LinkedIn, we did interviewing where you had to partner with somebody. You had to tell your story. Everything that he taught the night before, you was up all night and you stressing like how to work these new apps and new things. So that's what got me really started was Nick. And he said, and you gonna post that picture.
Wow.
And that picture went crazy. When I posted that picture, people were like, oh my God, I love that picture. And so that was part of it. Now, mind you, I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah.
But this is my, let me see if I can flip this up so it doesn't. This is my retirement brochure.
Yeah.
I had a logo when I retired. And so the logo was a representation of me because I met this young guy, was speaking for Black History at some event. And there was an artist there. And I said, I've got something. Would you do this for me? And there was some earrings I saw in Okinawa that looked like this G and I and had dangling down.
Oh,
and I sketched it on a napkin and used to keep it in a plastic bag. And later I had him produce it for my retirement. And so
Wow.
G and I meant God inspired. There's seven tail feathers for God's number of perfection. There's 39 stars around for the 30 39 stripes Jesus took on the cross. The stars are Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And the wings go over the earth because God has given us dominion over the earth. And so this is where it started. So it's evolved. And so once Nick got me wrapped back up into branding, I went back to this same artist who's now was 19 then. 10 years later, he was 29, to recreate the GI that you see that I use now. And so with Nick's branding, Nick's boot camp, and I've taken another course from him, and he's all about consistent. It can be consistent. And then I said, I need a goal. I want to become, this was 2019. I want to become a LinkedIn top voice. Well, I didn't know how to become a LinkedIn top voice, but then I started reaching out to Michael Quinn. If you don't know Michael Quinn, huge, 300,000. He's my LinkedIn mentor. I'm still not there. But he would give me tips on the side.
Yep.
And I met him for the first time in 2022.
Wow.
In person.
Before
that, it was just back and forth. And when I started, one of the things Nick said is, what do you want to be known for? So I took a piece of paper and I folded it horizontally, vertically, and horizontally. It had 4 quadrants. And I said, this is what I want to be known for. I want to be a thought leader for women veteran CEOs, women veteran leadership, small business, all things, around leadership. These are the things I don't want to contribute to, right? I don't do anything political, nothing racial, nothing controversial, nothing religious. Now, I may speak on religion, but it's never I speak on my faith,
right,
but not in opposition to somebody else's. The
right.
bottom one is, what are things that I am passionate about?
Yeah.
Y'all don't know, I'm a big thrift shopper. I'm a big jewelry girl. So even my posts, you will see sometime, we'll talk jewelry, right? All of those things. Then on the other one is, what are things that, if even though they may not be in one of those other quadrants, but that I'm okay with being interested in. Black military promotions at what I call the fodder level, right? They're a first, they're an only, they're a different. I like to post and give people visibility on those things. Now, those quadrants have changed a little bit over the years, but that simple strategy kept me going. You won't see me like anything or thumbs up anything or comment on anything in the box that I'm against. People have asked me, hey, can you push my, we're raising funds, or women military sexual trauma, or veteran homelessness. It's not that I don't believe or support in those things, but the algorithm and people's brains will think you are dyslexic when you're all over the place. So I tell people, it's like the consistency of themes and passions and areas of interest are like breadcrumbs.
Yes.
You keep dropping them, and before you know it, makes a loaf of bread, and it'll make you a lot of bread.
Yes, this is so true. You listen, you just gave a whole masterclass. So if anybody was listening to this, I mean, or they come back to the replay, I'll just say you're welcome. Okay, because you heard it from her on how, because you go over to LinkedIn, and I think, how many LinkedIn followers you got over there?
I think 31,000.
31,000, y'all. Listen, okay. So I mean, and it's the network and the community that you have built, and it is in alignment with what you're trying to do. And that's
And I want to say alignment. Go ahead and finish because I want to go back
So
to
first
that
of all, before
alignment
I go
word.
in alignment, like let me get these comments from the audience first, because we gonna go on another tangent. Okay. Um, okay, y'all know Facebook. I'm reading your comments from the phone. Okay, Glenroy. He said corporate don't like us to have nicknames. Okay. They don't want us to be able to brand our own intellectual capital or ourselves in any way. What we produce from our intellectual capital is valuable, and they want to keep it under thumb and nail.
Amen to
Okay.
that. But
And
guess what?
hmm,
My grandmother used to say, if you do it, who gonna beat you? If you don't do it, who gonna beat you? The answer is nobody.
nobody.
So as long as it does not deal with their proprietary um things,
Yeah.
your independent thought is yours. You don't have to ask their permission to get your PhD topic clear, do you?
No, sure don't.
It's the
So
same.
it,
Your brand is your PhD.
it is. And when I started branding, when I was active duty, I was just like, I'm just going to do it. And who's going to tell me otherwise? Nobody ever said, hey, like, we're not quite sure. I mean, they may have been a little confused at the
Yeah,
beginning,
yeah,
but after a while, they're like, that's just what it is. Right.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I get Glenroy's point, though. I
yeah,
really do.
yeah.
And he said that is unique and amazing idea. And that's what he was talking about, your hat,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing it out. He also said, when God blesses you with an ability that others can see and recognize, you don't let anyone, high brass or senior NCO, put you under a bushel. Okay. And then he also said, because Glenroy
Oh,
be
he
coming in
ready.
all this
Go
stuff.
ahead, boy.
Listen, he said, come on and preach a whole sermon in a logo. Okay, when you were doing the logo. Praise God. She has my spirit happy this evening. So
Oh, thank
listen, you just be blessing folks
you.
anywhere you go. You just be sharing, and we just listen and lean in even more. And I'm just like, man, it's just so good to
Thank
hear
you.
your journey. And then let's talk about alignment, because I think
Mm.
that is so, folks. Okay,
Alignment is a thing.
it is a thing.
No, it is the thing.
It's the thing. Yes, I agree.
It's the thing. I'm gonna
It
take
is.
your term. It's the thing. And the
Yes.
reason it's the thing is alignment of vision, alignment of values, alignment of energy.
Yes.
I mean, and passion, right? Because I'm gonna be careful with what I say here, because
Okay. Look, I'm gonna drink my water.
everybody that comes to you is not for you. They are for themselves.
Hmm. Let
And
me
they
keep
must be
it.
handled accordingly. And I'm a giver, right? So sometimes I'm just so busy giving that I always say I'm slow, but I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
fast in a lot of things, but my heart to give, my heart to want the best for people. I'm a
Yeah.
hopeless romantic. You
Yeah.
can do me wrong. Now I used to be, you can do me wrong a lot and I would just, but as I've gotten older, the heart can't take it. I got a heart condition and it can't stand to be hurt.
Yeah, I'm feeling you on all of this, because I want to know what you were gonna say, because that's
No,
where I'm at.
no,
Okay.
because alignment, see,
Mm,
people will come into proximity to
mm,
be aligned for their benefit.
mm,
And I'm okay with that because I mean,
mm,
a lot of people, they want a lot. Oh, let's do something together. And they look at that LinkedIn numbers and they're thinking, I can leverage that for me. But you don't know, that original logo, that's God inspired. All of this is the Lord Jesus Christ, because I don't have a virtual assistant. Every photo you see, I paid for or I've done myself. All those caricatures I paid for. I'm up. Rochelle will tell you, getting texts at 4 and emails at 4 o'clock in the
Girl,
morning.
she be texting at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I'm not even trying to wake my eyes up, but
No,
she up.
no. I'm up doing, right now I'm working on my book, but I'd be working on post, all of those things. And people don't realize you got to put in the work every single day. And I was live every single week for 2 years. And sometimes multiple times during the week. And I had guests, but they were guests. But guess who was holding down the house? Guess who was doing all the posts, all the production, all the things, as you would say.
All the things.
I was, and then it was like Forrest Gump running. And then he was like, why am I running? Why am I running? I'm just gonna stop running. And that's what happened in November. I was like, God just said, just stop.
Just stop.
And I mean, I know demystifying government contracting, the pocket, bless so many people, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But God said, I need you to cut the yoke because I'm now taking you in a different direction and I need your focus on that. And Lord, did I not know that the whole, I call it dynamic environment we're in now,
yeah,
was going to come.
Yeah.
And for years, I've had a book on the shelf, but I then came into the proximity of Rochelle and Yolanda Tate when we did the, thank you, Donnell, the Veterans Growing America, Black Excellence panel in February. And I was like, these sisters have inspired me. I need to write a book.
Oh.
And y'all, I am having the most fun. And let me tell you why. Because I'm talking to me. This is not my life story, but it is my strategy, my vision, approach to leadership and influence. Because John Maxwell said leadership is influence.
It is.
You're either influencing people for the good or for the negative. And so this book really is an ecosystem. It's a GI ecosystem, right? It's not one thing, it's many things working all together, right? And so it's called Command Your Influence. It's called the GI Field Manual, helping people become a government influencer. So GI does not stand for Gardner-Ince. It stands for Government Influencer Field Manual. And it is a tactical and strategic guide on how do you influence people, all the things around influencing people. And the reason I say I'm having a fun talking to myself is because for 2.5 years, I have been pouring my brain on leadership and influence into ChatGPT. And so it is now a knowledge-based system.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking to it to go to the internet. I'm talking to it, talking to me, back to me,
exactly.
The concepts and the things that I have shared. And so I am just having an absolute blast. And if you are underserved, unseen, and you want to know how to take your relationships, your knowledge, your insight on government, on the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and how do I take that and influence people either for business, for a promotion, to advocate for a cause, you don't want to miss this book.
You listen, y'all. First, the comment of you listening to yourself, okay? I think, many times we don't hear that. We just do. But you
Yes.
heard that and said, I just need to pause. I needed to take a pause,
Yes.
pull back. I'm going to fall back. I'm going to fall
Yeah.
all the
There
way
you go.
back.
There you go. And
And
you know
then
that's hard for us. You know that's
yeah,
hard.
and it's very hard for us because when we have already established a brand, one of the things that I have always heard is you got to keep going. You got to be consistent. You got to show up, that kind of thing, right? But you have built it to such a point that you can take a break. You know what I mean? You can step back, you can post every now and again, but you're not being really intentional in that because your intentionality is going into yet another
Yes.
project,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I am excited for you
Thank you.
because this is just going to be the next level to what you've already built. And if I inspired you, Yolanda inspired you, I think we all have been inspired by one another. To be
Yes.
honest with you, in that moment when we were there on the panel, we just
Yes.
knew there was way more that we could offer and provide for our sisters who are potentially going through the same kind of things we are. And
Yes.
Donnell has been the vessel.
Yes, he has.
You
Thank
know
you,
what I mean?
Donnell.
We love
Sergeant
you. Thank
Major.
you.
Sergeant Major.
Yeah, Sergeant Majors. Okay, up in there running things and being recognized. Okay, at a national level
Yes.
for vetpreneur of the world, if you will, because that's what we're going to call in. But he is just doing amazing things. But being around folks. Okay, so again, Glenroy is up in here on the Facebook side, and he is saying, come on, preach, my sister. He says, sometimes those in proximity want to have access, but they are not aligned with your journey or your anointing. Everybody deserves kindness, but everyone does not deserve your energy or your time. Okay?
You preaching.
And he is preaching. He is on here. I wish these comments would have been up here, but I got them. And he said, quote unquote, with big, bold letters, having the most fun. And that equals thriving in your anointing. So, it is always so good to hear that you are, with somebody's in a different space, but it is a better space to impact, influence way more people than they were before, and doing it was just such grace. Okay. All right. Because that's what you're doing. And then Renee said, hashtag government influencer. Hey, Renee, how you doing? Thank you so much for being here live on the show with us tonight because, this is what we do. This is what we do. And then, of course, Donnell says, can I pre-order?
Yeah, we're working on that. I'm getting it to the July 15th is I'm getting it to the editor. So
yeah, so I mean, the branding piece to it is so, I think it's one of the most important things that we could do for ourselves, especially as veterans, especially as women veterans, especially as Black women veterans, because people will try to tell our story and they ain't going to get it right half the time.
And you better tell it.
And you better tell it. Okay. So how can you do that? And there's so many modalities that you can use. You talk about LinkedIn Lives, the shows, the books, the publications, the post. We have a multitude of ways that we can start. And I love when you talk about influence because that is so important. Anything that you can influence that is, again, I'm all about in alignment. And when you talk about people, places, and things, because that's what we really talk about. People, places, and things that don't belong in our world anymore, and making that decision to say, you know what, you ain't where I'm supposed to be at. Like you ain't. Not everybody can go on the journey with you when it changes.
And
go ahead.
I want to jump in because recently something happened where I was at a conference. Somebody said, "Oh yeah, we need to work together," and blah blah blah. And I don't let everybody have my personal number, right? So if you have my personal number, I consider you okay. You're somebody who can get access.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hit me up on DM on LinkedIn. Right? So this is somebody who said, oh yeah, we were at this conference for 3 days. Oh yeah, hey, missed each other. And I said, okay. I said, let us be more intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
here's what I know. Don't manage my time.
No.
So
No.
people will say, oh, I know you're busy. No, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know.
You don't
If
know.
something is important to me or anybody else, you will find time. Period.
Period.
Okay, so that's number one. Next thing I know, get a text. Oh, I'm in town for yada, yada, yada. Really? And so we ain't got intention twice. You know, my daughter says all the time, Mom, you stay blocking people. I sure will. I sure will. Because what you have just said, first of all, okay, first time was a mistake because I didn't set expectations. This is something that Coach Marvin Powell, who I really admire and love, what a great mind. I'm sometime on his weekly shows. He says, Michelle, you must tell people what you expect. He said, you're such a giver.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wonder why people don't give back, or when you ask people for something, they don't return it. And I said, you're right. So I'm trying to do better at that.
Yeah.
But I just like you said, I told you, I would want somebody to do it for me. So that's how I treat people, is I treat them like I would want to be treated. But what I'm realizing is everybody is not me. Nobody's me. Okay.
Nobody.
So anyway, so this person said, oh yeah, I'm in town for this event. I saw so-and-so at the dinner. They told me to tell you hi. Guess what happened? They are blocked. Because there was no intention. I told you the first time, let's be intentional. You're talking about working together. Now you come to, first of all, we're in another city the first time. Now you're in my city. You're blocked.
Yes.
And what I'm finding is, it sounds good. Yeah, let's hook up. Let's do. But if we don't make a point to do it,
yeah, it just doesn't get done.
then it does. And this thing, I want to roll back to alignment and influence, right? Alignment and influence have to match. You can't say, I know General so-and-so. I know SES so-and-so. I know, muckety muck. You know what knowing means when it comes to influencing them? Do you know what moves them and makes them make decisions? Do you understand the unwritten and the written environmental factors that make them make the decisions they do? Do you know the people around them that can get you access, or do you have direct access? I'm just saying, these are the things that are going to be in the book. Because you don't know. You just say you came out of some organization, you don't know.
You don't.
Unless you know what moves the cheese, unless you know what moves the money, unless you know what moves the policy, unless you understand how the decisions are made, you do not have influence. You know somebody.
Know somebody.
That's it. Yeah. And influence is not universal. It's not, I got influence over here. No, you have influence in the place of your credibility.
Yes.
In the place where you have shown up.
Yep.
You have been consistently excellent. So now people are willing to take your calls because they know people. You know how I grew my influence? Because for years, it isn't until now that I've asked people for things. Yeah. I would give my coin when I was a commander.
Yeah.
There are people who are colonels and generals now because I gave them a coin and I wrote a handwritten note and said, I know just about every Black general officer in the Air Force. And I would get them in the door. I would say, take this, you're going TDY to base X. Call ahead and tell General so-and-so, Secretary EA, that I am sending a note, and ask for 15 minutes. Go in and introduce yourself. Tell who you are, what you're trying to do, and ask them if they would mentor you and if you can call them occasionally. It works every single time. Not once, not sometimes, every single time. Because I'm using my influence, my access, and I'm shifting it to them. But if I did not know them, just because I'm in the Air Force, doesn't mean that I have that influence.
That's
but there
right.
are people out here, saying, I know so-and-so, and yeah, I can get, you don't know nobody.
You don't know nobody.
You calling 5 people to get to that person, and you hope that they'll get you there.
You said a whole thing here. Like, listen, okay, first of all, Glenroy just
What you doing, Glenroy?
Glenroy over here, you keep trying to tell him he need to be on the show because this is just crazy. He says, tell it in such a way that when others try to tell it, they can't find them words. They can only give reference to how it made them feel when you told it. Your story or insight and the way you delivered it is your very own composed, self-patented symphonic sermon. All right, so he
Amen,
just
brother.
he said amen
God,
to that. Exactly. And then we got LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn is giving the salute. Okay, and then looking forward to seeing the impact you would have in the private sector. GI need more experienced gubbies out here. Streets are lonely on the other side.
Oh wow.
And then of course we got Renee here. She said, this is so frustrating. People be in conference in the moment. I be about my father's business, and people be out here talking about how I can help you with no intention.
Be careful. I said there's players in business too now. Don't get it wrong. There's play. You know what a player do, right?
What's that?
Oh, girl. This is why I love women veterans, because this is how I talk to them. I said, your client is your man. You better know your man. Does he like black liquor, brown liquor, white liquor? Is he a tennis shoe, jeans with dress shoes? Is he a tennis shoe, the white shoe, clean, don't get them messed up? Is he a Jordan guy? Is he a Final Four guy? He just like basketball in the Final Four. Does he like, the divisionals in the football, or is he a Super Bowl guy? Is he golf, right? Is he bid whiz? Is he chess? You better know your man. You better understand how he spend his money. Does he spend money? Is he a romantic guy? Is he spending? But all of this is just a parallel to saying, understand your man. Okay. Yeah. And these women out here got these businesses. Oh, this guy, called me from this business and he wants to do a joint venture. You better, do you know him?
You said you better.
He'll play. He wants your woman on and your veteran on certification. He gonna take it and deuces. Okay. Make you lots of promises, because there's these contracts that say they'll take your past performance and they'll take all of that and they'll submit it with the proposal. And then guess what? That contract that you just signed that you didn't have nobody look over says, we are going to give you up to 10 positions. Well, 0 is up to, and you just got played. So they got to use all of your credentials, all of your information to get that contract, and then you don't get no work off the contract, and they off making millions. There's a player everywhere. Please date first. Do not marry soon. Okay? I'm just saying. And you need to check the credit, and you need to do all the things that you would do. All the things. I mean,
all the things
queen. All the things that you would do if you were getting married. Because I've never been divorced, but I tell everybody.
Me neither.
It might be easier to get rid of a man than a business partner. So
right. Exactly. Listen, you said a whole lot of things. And I would add to, I mean, we already like an hour and a half, 90 minutes in, but you know how we do.
You can cut it up, girl. Make it 2 seconds.
Exactly. So this contract business ain't for everybody.
No, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Say it again, please.
Okay, contract business is not for everybody. And I got stuff. I got credentials,
yes,
and,
you do.
certifications, and all the things that, right. I'm in good standing and all that good stuff. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't have the capacity. All right. But there are people who do. You got to know.
What kind of capacity you saying you don't have?
The capacity to handle all of the things that go in for a contract.
That part.
Okay.
That part.
Because when people win and get awarded contracts, they like, oh yeah, I got it. I'm like, you know what? You about to work your tail off. Okay. I hope you got money. Okay. I hope you got access to money because you got to pay folks and you got to make sure you got that up front. It's a whole lot of conversation. I attend conferences all the time about contracts and so forth and so on. And I'm not really actively pursuing. What I appreciate is the networking, the meeting new people, finding out what is happening, kind of getting the vibe of what business is. And so that I can add it to my acumen. Because when I hear all of the things that you have to do in order to maintain the contracts and all this, because people are like, I got 15 contracts. 15 contracts? My head is already spinning. I'm like, how many people you got on your team? I hope you got a whole army because you're going to need a whole bunch of people to keep that going. But you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself in that. I'm a free bird. I like to just be able to I'm here and I'm there, and I kind of flit through. I do a little bit of work there, do a little bit of work there. But to be, into that system, which is, it is a very profitable.
It's a machine.
But it's a machine.
It's a machine.
So, that too comes with it. I'm not dissuading anyone from not doing it, but you really need to know what you're getting yourself
into. And they make it sound easy.
No.
It is not. Okay? It is not for the faint of heart. You will be sued by employees. Okay? You decide to let them go. You do something wrong according to the EEO, any of that discrimination, they look. Okay? You got to lease a building. You got to lease equipment. You got to have an HR to hire, fire on board. By the way, you can lose a contract because somebody looking at porn and it ain't even you. But they're on a government computer and you employed them. So you just need to know, you're right. It's not for everybody. And I wish people would stop making it sound like it's this easy button, because you can do government contracts at the federal level, the state level, the city level. You can go to school districts, need IT, HR, all. You can do it. You don't have to go after these big, huge things. And by the way, there's less bureaucracy in these smaller ponds where you can be a big fish.
Yeah, exactly.
So I applaud you for knowing who you are. And then you have to say, what kind of quality of life do I want?
That part.
And what part of freedom, how much freedom do I want? Because you're not being free. That's that thing of being on the beach and all that. Yeah, unless you an internet business, got a phone down autopilot. I don't think so. Not with the government. And people say, I got this contract. Ask them two things. When they say make it sound, ask them, is it a product? If the government said they want 1,000 mattresses, yeah, you can do that, and that's easy. It's impersonal. It's transactional. Yeah. What I can tell you is the government ain't hiring no service, butts in seats, and don't know nobody. It's too high risk.
It's high risk.
So this thing, when people say, oh, it's easy, you need to drill down. Don't take everything at face value.
Yeah.
It is not all the same. There's all these different models. Some people just click. Some people are ordering supplies from them. But I'm telling you, these service contracts, these butts and seats, provide a service, the government ain't playing with you. They're not playing. Girl, next thing you know, you'll be done. A cancel for convenience if you're lucky.
Oh Lord.
You hope not to get a D or whatever on your report card, your government business report card, because you won't get to do business no more.
Listen,
so
I'm just saying. Leroy, he said, "Oh God." He's talking about, and all they have to do is listen. And I don't know exactly what.
No, he said all they have to do is listen. He's right. Because they don't want to listen. They want to take the easy. Let's go to YouTube University.
Yeah. He said, any man will tell you all you have to do is listen holistically with your ears and with your eyes. Okay. And then he said, truth. And this is when I was talking about these contracts. Contract business is not for everyone, especially when that fine print isn't gone over with a very fine tooth comb.
Oh, but
You want to know the ins and outs verbatim. The issuer will always have an out. If you don't know your out, you could end up working for FREE.
True
Okay?
that. Just
So
you don't want to be be thrown out and disbarred and everything else because you didn't price it right. So true, so true. I told you I didn't know.
That exactly. And so, but you got to have good mentorship, good wise counsel. You coming out with your book is going to be a resource for many people who are just trying to figure this thing on out. Now go ahead and go buy and purchase about 10, because not only are you going to use it, but you're going to pass it on around to all your friends and your family, even people who are in business right now who might need a little refresher on.
Well, it's for nonprofits too. It's for
nonprofits.
Business. So it's nonprofits, it's business, it can be corporate, because everybody needs to influence something. Like, one of the things for a nonprofit, you got to touch a heart before you ask for a hand.
That's right.
If the company that you want to fund you doesn't have a heart for that issue, don't waste your time trying to convince them. Go where their heart is. Find alignment with the heart of the business, of the corporation. If they got a heart, like Tom's has a heart to put shoes on, on people, that is alignment with their own business. So they're feeding their own business. They're doing a nonprofit that gives away shoes. They're doing profit for shoes. So one is feeding the other. That is the best way to do a nonprofit. That way you have profit, but even on the profit side, let's say you're consulting and you're doing trying to bring education to underserved countries, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Teaching. So you then go in and find a corporation who wants to educate, who's invested in education in underprivileged countries. You get them to fund you. You see how, but the alignment has to be there. You can't just go trying to sell chicken dinners to everybody and they don't want no chicken dinner.
That's right. Everybody's chicken is right. So okay, like,
come on
listen.
now, Gi.
Oh my gosh.
Renee. I hear you, Renee. I know. You know what? I have to put this in a link in the chat if I can find it.
Yeah.
I listened to a thing from Maya Angelou today saying about when people say you're too much. And I get that a lot. I'm intense.
Yeah.
I have a lot, I have a lot to give because, if you listen to this podcast, there's a lot there. But what she said was, there is not, like my mother said, nothing wrong with you. It is that those people are, I'm going to put it in my own terms, are thin sponges. When you get a little thin sponge and you wash your dishes.
Listen, let me get my fan in, y'all. Listen, I got to get my little.
You get the little thin sponge. You put it down that water absorbs it quick, and it comes out quick because you wash a few dishes. But that big old thick sponge that you got to wash, you can wash an entire half of a car with a thick sponge, and you put it down in that water, and it takes a long time to absorb that water before it comes out. I'm a thick sponge. Look, there's a lot in here, boo. And if you're not trying to do big things, watch big cars with thick sponges. I probably am too much if you a thin sponge washing some dishes. I'm just saying.
I mean, but you got a lot of thick sponges around. So, we all thick sponges. And, that analogy, I've never heard of it before, but it speaks true to exactly. I mean, when you have a life full of so many experiences in so many different ways, it's just like when people ask, like, who are you? What do you do? It could be like, you're just staring at them like,
what part of you want? Listen, I should only tell them this because That's about all they're really interested in. That's what I'm trying to get better about doing, is just tell people only the part that I think they need right now. And then
That's
if
right.
they want more, I
Yeah.
give more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you're right. But my tendency, especially on podcasts, is just to, because it lives on. And
Yeah.
somebody might, I've had people say, "Oh, I listened to your podcast and I learned this," because it's almost like giving them a book or a reference to go back to. That's the power of social media and of the internet. So that's why when I'm on podcasts, I just try to give whatever God gives me to give.
Yeah. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
gave a lot to this evening. And Glenroy says here, two things: do your background research on the board members and C-suite. Everything about everyone is available publicly.
True that.
In some way.
True.
And then he said, you're only too much when they don't have the capacity to receive.
That's what I was trying to say with the thin and the thick
That's
skull,
right.
but thank you for saying it more eloquently. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
we definitely have to come back for a part 2 or something
Oh,
like that.
when the book is out, girl, you know
Yeah,
you're on
like
the
we
list.
got to come back here and just talk about command. Is it commanding?
Command your influence.
Command your influence, and really share like the why behind it, kind of some of the
Mm-hmm.
highlights to it, where
Mm-hmm.
people can get access to it,
Yes.
because I know this is going to be the bestseller, okay, if you will,
I
of,
received that. Thank
you
you.
know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to make sure that is going to happen, because
Thank you.
when you have done so much for others, so much for, communities,
Mm.
God just gave you this particular project for you to share with so many people, and it's going to open you another set of doors that you
Amen.
have never
Amen.
even thought that were there. You
I
will be
receive
opened
it.
up, and we get to see you on the sideline. Like, I'm just going to be like, there she go again. There
No,
go
you
my
ain't that. There she
yeah,
go.
there.
You gonna be with me. What you talking, girl? Come on.
Listen,
No, ain't gonna be no sideline. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
look, I'm
I like
ready.
to. I
I'm
like
ready. I'm
all
ready.
boats rise together. I like to take good
Uh,
peoples with me, honey. No, ma'am.
Listen, I'm ready. I was like, I got all the things, you just let me know. Because this is the next life that we get to live. And so, it's even more pleasurable when we do it together. And
You saw
Donnell,
Donnell?
yeah, he says we doing the book
Yes,
launch at
yes,
VJ.
and you
Like,
know
yay,
that,
let's go.
and
Let's
you
go.
know that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I probably only got the capacity really for another 15 minutes for this show, because there's like 1,001 shows on the library. And so I needed like to delete some things. But anyway, so that we don't get caught off.
Yes.
Okay. Or I want to just go back to our audience and shout out to all those that came. So we had Chevy, we had a LinkedIn user. We don't know who you are, but thank you for being here. Donnell, of course, Renee. And then on the Facebook side, we had Glenroy and Leslie. We're on the Facebook side. So y'all, thank you so much for being with us
Thank you.
live, because this is a live show. Now, I know many people come back for the replay because life is life and there's a lot of things happening and going on. So go ahead and put in hashtag replay when you come back. Let us know what your takeaways were. What were some of the highlights of this amazing, of course, SLAYMAZING conversation that we had. And GI, I just want to ask you one last question before we leave from here. And that is 80th birthday. All right. God gives you those years and you're there with family and friends. What do you want them to say about you?
80th?
80th.
Wow. One, I want my dream to come true. I have a dream, and as John Lennon said, I'm a dreamer, and I hope I'm not the only one. And that is that there will be a $10 billion federal contract with a whole team of nothing but women veteran CEOs.
Wow.
By my 80th birthday, that has happened. That's number one. Two, I hope that I'm with my grandchildren and my children. I told them no rush for grandchildren, but I hope to have some by then and have amazing spouses that love, honor, and cherish them the way that, Brian, and happy birthday, not happy birthday, happy Father's Day, love, has been for me. He has always been go baby go, has been the wind beneath my wings. He's a background kind of guy, but he still 35 years later is the nicest, most wonderful guy. No, his nickname is Mr. Wonderful. So hope to be smiling and enjoying him. But most of all, I want to be speaking. I still want to be speaking. I want to be bringing my grandchildren along with me, having them watch me speak, exposing them to experiences of travel. And the legacy is just that the world was better because I was in it. And that, people would say the two letters GI, something I said, something I did, something I influenced made a difference. And I would love that.
Beautiful. It's all gonna happen. I've already pictured that, all of that, and I'm just like, I can't wait to see. And because I'm gonna be here, we're gonna be here.
Yes.
Okay, so this 80th birthday party is gonna be happening. All right, so and only the folks that need to be in the room will be in the room. I'll just say that.
Alignment. Can we say alignment? Can we say alignment? And I do want to say that the last thing I want to say is if I had not done the pause, I would have been too busy.
Yep.
To get to do this, to have the clarity, to have the information was always there. And I think that's the way it is with us, that it's there in all of us. Whatever we have to do is already there. We're enough. We've done enough. We are enough.
Yes.
But the pause and the inward look of appreciation and gratefulness of saying, God, thank you. You put a little extra in my basket over here now. Now you left some stuff out over there. We not working on the weaknesses. But over here, you did some stuff. And I am going to be the best steward I can. And I'm going to show up for the world and give it to them.
Yeah. Well, listen, y'all heard it from here. I don't even know. I'm full. This has been such a great conversation. Just the great fellowship, like we always do. And I just appreciate your yes, especially at the last second, just saying, hey, let's go. Okay. And it's just turned out to be so good for not only for us, but for so many people who are listening in. And lastly, Glenn Roy says, blessings and peace to everyone. Happy Father's Day to the fathers online. So, listen, y'all. So we're going to scooch on out of here. All right. Thank you so much for joining us live. We will be back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and look out for that. Go ahead and just mark it on your calendars from here on out. This is where you need to be. Okay. Because I always bring in the best guests. Okay. We don't just be putting anybody in here. Okay. We have the best guests. So if you're looking for inspiration, elevation, looking for just a way to improve your whole entire life, just check us out every Sunday night. So thank you all for being here. And thank you again, GI. And keep on slaying. You're welcome. Keep on slaying, y'all, until you can't slay no more. And we will talk to you all very soon. Bye.